Hey, Gloucester Township. I'm Joe Allen here with Keith Gibbons. This
Hello,
is Restore GT.
and good night, everyone.
It's the old Fetterman, the Fetterman debate. This is the recap for council meeting on October 24th, 2022. A lot happened. I posted before the meeting, as I always do on RestoreGT.com. This was going to be a council meeting you probably wouldn't want to miss, and
Did it deliver or what?
It delivered in a lot of different ways.
Okay.
A lot of disappointing ways, and some ways that I anticipated, but
Yeah, I don't know that you can't not be disappointed at a council meeting. That's par for the course.
Well, that's why a bunch of us go to Skeeter's afterwards, because it's it's the first thing that happened was of course Tracy Trotto left.
Left of Township a few months ago and was just replaced.
Yeah, illegitimately replaced, as we stated.
Replaced.
It was a she should have been replaced in July when she moved. They waited, covered it up, and replaced her in essentially in October. So
why? I don't understand why. Like they literally couldn't find another person to just vote yes on everything.
No, I don't know.
Is that really?
I don't know that they planned on replacing her until she got called out. So it is what it is. Nobody. If you, I don't. There are rules in place. There's a charter in place for the township, and apparently it doesn't have to be followed because nobody on the county level or the state level cared at all about this whole thing. So your new council person, so there were three actually. There were three council people.
Well, so go back to the process of it is what because she was a Democratic committee member, then the Democratic committee gets to submit names to council to replace her in the interim? Is that how it works?
They have 15 days from her resignation to find three candidates to send to council, and then council will go into closed chambers and they'll pick one of those three people.
They interview each though, right?
They
so both
they
the committee interviews and the council interviews, or committee just selects three to send on to
the committee interviews a bunch of people.
Okay.
They pick the top three, they send it over to council, and then council votes on it.
Do you get to know who the top three are?
I don't think publicly.
Okay.
We know that I guess in full transparency, our friend Sam Sweet went over and interviewed.
Okay.
Same as when Scott Owens left a few years ago. Like, I went over and interviewed too, just to see the process and to meet the people behind the scenes that I've heard so much about. I knew I had no chance at all. Sam knew this time.
How would you know that?
He had no chance at all. I was a little vocal before the whole process, so I knew that I had no chance. But it was, Sam was one of those people. And he made the top three, which was super surprising. So
the top three are then what's submitted to council.
Okay. And then at the beginning of this council meeting, they went into closed chambers for about a half hour. They had a workers' comp thing they had to discuss, and then they also had to pick a council member. So when they came out, they picked a new council member, and we got a clip of that, so we'll hit that clip and you guys check it out. It's a short clip.
At this time, I entertain a motion to appoint a council member. So Resolution 2210-311, resolution confirming the appointment of a council member to fill the unexpired term of Tracy Trotto, pursuant to NJSA 3DA 16-11. So we can pass this resolution, then name an individual.
You can move the resolution. You can move the resolution with the name of the individual.
Okay, then we'll do that then.
This is
there
boring,
a nomination for appointment of a councilman?
I'd like to make a motion nominating Helen Albright as a councilman.
Is there a second? We have a motion to nominate Helen Albright Troxell to the open council seat. On the question, roll call, please.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
Ms. Grace? Yes.
Mr. Mignone?
Yes.
Mrs. Stubbs? Yes. Mrs. Winters? Yes. Mr. Mercado?
Yes.
Unanimously. Every one of them
Everybody,
wanted
always.
Helen Albright Troxell. You are come on down. Come on down. The price is right.
So if anybody's wondering, Helen is a former Gloucester Township council member from some years back, and also a former Camden County Commissioner. So, they don't go very far when they pick
Also
their people.
known as a freeholder, right? In the past, we
I
believe
yeah, possibly.
they're not freeholders any longer.
So that's one position I've never followed, but I know we've got some commissioners up for election.
Cool.
This
So
year, too,
there was one name that was thrown out there to vote on. There was no mention of the other two, so they in the chambers committed to one person basically, and then brought it out. Okay, interesting.
Yep. So, so they picked somebody connected.
So Tracy used to be the vice president, correct?
Yeah.
So
Correct.
did they then move on to a
did.
new vice president?
So there was a vote to pick the next vice president, and
That was
That we have a open vice president seat
Look
on
at that.
council. So I entertain a motion, a resolution to appoint a council member, and I'll accept any nomination.
I'd like to nominate, Ms. Mignone.
Is there any other nominations?
Did he nominate himself? Is that what that was?
no, that was
Question?
Dan
Roll
actually
call,
nominated
please.
him.
Mr. Hutchison?
Yes.
So Dan nominated
Mr.
both
Mignone?
the
Yes.
new council member, and he
Yes.
also nominated
Yes.
Mignone.
Yeah,
Mr. Mercado?
Okay.
Yes.
Mrs. Albright?
Dan's the
We
boss
already
here.
know it's a unanimous yes, so I just
It
spoke over
is
it
a
because
yes.
we already know the votes. It's not.
What caught me was going back and watching the replay of everything was Dan nominated Mignone, and Mignone didn't even react. So it made me feel like this was all pre-planned. Like everybody knew what was going on.
We already know he is not the best actor. We've seen his acting before.
He just
I would like to remove this section out of. Yeah, we've seen his acting before.
So yeah, it's not
exactly
that was kind of my
Hollywood.
takeaway was wow, he wasn't even he didn't even really acknowledge the whole fact that they picked him. So it just
it's just suppressing his feelings.
just kind of a scripted thing. And so there you have it. Your new council member is Helen Albright Troxell, and Mike Mignone is now your council vice president. So
Welcome,
hopefully-
Helen. Congratulations, Mr. Mignone.
we will, I suppose, when President Mercado is off, we will hear a bit more now from Mr. Mignone, who's generally kind of a quiet guy on council.
He is, yeah.
But nothing bad to say about Mignone. I'm looking forward to seeing him lead a council meeting and see how that all goes.
Yeah. I have nothing to say.
Yeah, the agenda wasn't really a packed agenda this week. One of the first things that came up, Pete Heimball.
There were just a lot of resolutions of. Yeah. So go ahead. I
there
think
was.
we're going to cover it all.
Looking through it, it wasn't. We looked through it a couple days before the meeting. Not very exciting.
No.
But one of the things that stood out was we need to borrow $4 million to cover some overages on the health insurance plan. So
That's all. It's just $4 million.
Just $4 million.
Not a big deal.
So
we got this.
Gloucester Township it's a self-funded insurance plan. So they have somebody brokering the plan. And
Well, it's self-insured. What's the difference between self-insured and self-funded?
Well, it's self-insured. So
Okay.
so they're paying for they're paying claims basically.
Right.
And they've got some overages, and I guess they're borrowing a little bit more, up to borrowing $4 million to cover any additional overages, I guess.
So in your household, is $4 million a lot of money or not a lot of money?
It is.
Okay, yeah.
And-
I was thinking that kind of sounds like a little bit of money out of our budget.
So
if you think of the size of the budget and $4 million to it,
the question was brought up. Like they budget, they budget for health insurance every year, and what happened? So
unforeseen things can happen. Yeah, that's true.
Pete Heimbaugh kind of asked, "What happened? Why are we borrowing the money? Why didn't we? How do we kind of mess this up on the budget?" And it kind of came down to these are prescription prices. So prescription prices went up. They can't get too deep into why they went up.
Sure.
Apparently,
you got
they give an example. I guess
stuff with employees.
I guess some employees have medicines that are really expensive, and they give an example of, I guess, one person has a prescription that costs $17,000 a month. So
right.
$200,000 a year.
That's
for prescriptions. So yeah, I don't know a whole lot about this for the costs on what it would cost us and what our alternatives are. But somebody brought up the fact that there's potentially a state-run insurance program. State of New Jersey has big buying power because they've got a lot of employees, and there, I guess, is a state plan.
It's the same in the school board as well. They could save money on the school board if they did not use Connor Strong and Buccalo as their health insurance provider.
That's one of the controversial things because Connor Strong is
who is it?
It's a Norcross. It's a Norcross company.
Yikes!
So
okay.
It is.
Enough said.
If you if you've been around for a little while, you know that Norcross has a big influence on South Jersey, and
not even a politician, by the way, just a businessman.
His businessman. His brother is George Norcross, who is Donald. Sorry. Donald.
Yeah,
George
Donald.
Norcross is the big one. Donald Norcross is the politician here.
Yeah.
Up for re-election actually November 2. So yeah, so there's still some debate whether or not the state plan would be cheaper than going through Connor Strong. There's going to be questions that come out next council meeting about that most likely.
But the interesting thing too, if I'm not mistaken, when we borrow money, Norcross still profits from us borrowing.
He does.
So by us not only using Connor Strong and Buccalo as the insurance provider, once we go over and we need to borrow, we're also lining his pockets. So,
you got it.
I mean, that's
yeah, it is. Hey,
am I calling a spade, or I don't know what
they
it
don't
is.
call the Norcrosses the puppet masters for no reason.
Yeah.
So that was one of the questions that was brought up, that was talked about, that we didn't really get a whole lot of information on it. Hopefully we get a little bit more next week. One other thing that was brought up too is the bank property downtown in Blackwood.
Yeah.
So there was a resolution on there for.
So this is the property that's at the corner of Church and Blackhorse Pike, the old bank that the NPP program purchased as a grant to help.
It's going to be a black box filter, black box theater.
Yeah.
And the building next to it, the white building, is going to be torn down and turned into a parking lot.
Right. We used to be the music school.
Apparently, before any of that happens, we have asbestos to remove from there. Don't know if it is. There was some speculation, I guess Mr. Carlemere thought that there might have been some shingles or some insulation, but there's asbestos.
I think that's honestly a common knowledge problem. That's what that building. That's why it sat vacant for so long. It is a historic building, so you have to deal with that side of it. Because of the time frame in history that it was built, a lot of the materials were, contained asbestos. Well, that was a mouthful. But so that cleanup, to me anyway, is not any kind of surprise. It's kind of to be expected.
What also wasn't a surprise, though, is when it was proposed to buy the building, people had questions. People question every purchase the township makes, and one of the selling points was it's really cheap. We're getting a really great deal on this thing. Kind of like the old EMS building that we bought really cheap, and then we had to refurb the entire thing and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on it because it was in such poor shape and it was a bad investment. And this one here, when it was proposed to us, there was no mention of this. So we bought it. I think we bought it for $118,000, and then all of a sudden, now we have an environmental cleanup.
Again, I'm not to stick up for them, but I feel like that we did know that going in, or we shouldn't have not expected that. It was cheap on that side of things, but at the same time, private industry hasn't invested in that building because of all of those things. So any savvy investor or a business that's going in there looks at that building and says, "Wow, that's really cheap. Okay, I'm going to need a whatever phase 3 environmental to have this thing cleaned up, and that's going to cost me a fortune, and I have to deal with all these other things." Kind of like what I was just saying, but that's where I feel like it is not a bad purchase for the township to purchase that, in my personal opinion. That it's at least going to be renovated properly and with grants, taxpayer money, things that will help that building remain an anchor in the town to not close down. So say a brewery, we've talked about, other people have mentioned, hey, that'll be a really cool brewery. A brewery purchases it and goes bankrupt, a year later because they can't pay their bills because of how much money they took out in loans because we weren't, patronizing their business, and now it's sitting vacant again with a private industry owning it and it being not, somebody not being able to go in there and renovate it again. So that's the only thing, in my opinion, that gives a pass to this particular project of knowing that environmental stuff that I don't believe anyone thought it wasn't in need of a cleanup. But that's just me.
Yeah, I guess that's definitely one positive way to look at it. And I guess the question that I would have is, all right, what if nobody uses it as a black box theater? What if it's out there and there's nothing happening? There's no good use for the township. Now, if they turn around and sold it, all refurbed and everything, they sold it. It's fantastic. It's fantastic for the township. Somebody can go in there and buy it, and something.
We're not in the real estate business. We're not in the flipping, properties business either.
We're not, and we shouldn't be.
And they're going to sell it at a loss.
It is it's a positive for the town and for that area that definitely needs something like that. The other side,
I would agree with you that it does not need a black box theater. We have main stage right down the road. We have the library. Right. I understand they're trying to pick the arts district, but there's a point where it's too much of the same thing. And we've talked about this before. The entire block is basically owned by the township.
The other way to look at it, too,
not exactly an arts district,
is
okay.
It's a bad investment for anybody private.
Mm-hmm.
So now you've just forced the taxpayers into a bad investment that we all have to pay for.
Okay.
Now. I mean, it's the other way to look at it.
Yep, you're right.
You try to see things both ways, and that's kind of, we're trying to look at it. We're trying to look at everything that with two different points of view.
Yeah.
So,
are we playing good cop, bad cop here?
We do that. That's what we do
every now and then.
So one of the other things on there was, there's a lot of abatements, and the question kind of came up.
There were several on the agenda for abatements. This was the one that Paul Krug had made a joke about the council meeting before. He said, was there a class held?
Yeah, was there a class? All of a sudden, everybody's getting abatements right now.
Somebody hold a class on how to fill out a tax abatement form?
So so that question came up, and there was some questions around. So if they used Philomena's for an example, Philomena's is adding an addition on for like the outdoor dining. They kind of spruced it all up, and so basically, Philomena's is getting an abatement on the increased value that cost.
Improvements,
on the improvements.
Yep.
So if that overall improve the worth of that property by $50,000. That will be, that'd be the assessed value that they'll get the abatement on. But then there were some questions on whether or not, so if somebody goes in and builds a new property, then they get 100%. It's 100% abatement on that property. It's new construction.
Right.
And then somebody else brought up, what if we tear down something that's already there and then build something new? Do we get 100%? Or do we get if the property that they tore down was worth $200,000, and then the property that they replaced it with was worth $500,000.
Right.
Are they getting an abatement on $300,000, or are they getting an abatement on $500,000?
Right.
And that wasn't really clear. They couldn't really answer that. So I guess that still remains. Somebody would have to dig into that to figure it out. And then when that was all said and done, I guess just to kind of clarify it, Joe D'Amico went up and asked, what is the abatement term? Like, what are the terms for our standard abatement?
Right.
And the terms are first year, 0% for the business to pay. The second year is 30%. Third year is 50%. Fourth year is 70%. Fifth year is 90%. And the sixth year, you're paying full price. So that's kind of how the abatement structure is here.
Right. So that's 5-year tax abatement.
Yeah. So that's your regular 5-year.
Again, that's on the improvements, not on the land itself. The land is always less expensive than the actual improvements. But to your point, or to the question's point, when you're improving a property's overall value, there was already a value because there was an existing structure on the building. You could have gotten rid of your your structure taxes by knocking the building down and having it be a vacant land, and then you're paying less on it. But it also costs a lot of money to knock a building down. It's not a cheap thing to do. You have a lot of different environmental things, and getting rid of it's not cheap to knock a building down. So as a property owner, it might be cheaper for you to continue paying property taxes on an on the structure that's on the land versus paying $250,000 and knock down a building and start over. And I'm not, again, going against the thought process of paying the difference of it. I'd rather see a new building there and getting a tax abatement because they built something new, if they continue to stay there for 10 years or 15 years, versus an abandoned building that or knocking down a building on a vacant land. I mean, it is a marketing thing, like they talk about, but it's for everybody's. It's visually pleasing to see a new building. That's
it is. I mean, it is.
At what point do you stop complaining about?
It's
tax abatements.
It is nice when they put in a whole new building, as opposed to, like, I don't know if you turn a Taco Bell into a dispensary. It's it's kind of weird looking, a little bit. So it is kind of nice. It's kind of nice if they come in. So yeah, I mean, it is nice when they put new stuff in rather than trying to rehab something old and turn it into something new that still looks like a Taco Bell. So
yeah. I saw the other day, I think I was in Washington Township, there was a Pizza Hut.
I'm just thinking Pizza Hut too, like the roof. You
cannot mistake that building as it's a Pizza Hut. And this place turned into some kind of a liquor store. It was like the bar hut or the beer hut or something like that. I know
exactly which one you're talking about.
Yeah, yep. I looked at the building, I'm like, that's Pizza Hut. No, it's not. It's a something or other. I just picture like the plastic red cups, that you get the soda in. The piping hot pizza that came out.
Yes.
If you went there, you were a king that day. Yep.
So that was kind of it for your regular council meeting.
Yep.
Public portion was
It was lit.
Was fire.
Yeah.
It was a I was gonna play the Paul Krug clip, but it's 5.5 minutes long.
Yeah.
And without explanation, if you haven't seen, now we did this a little bit in the Board of Education candidates interviews that we did last week. At some point, a flyer came out.
Yeah, a flyer came out against another parent, Dina Hendry, and myself, basically stating that we were racist. In other words,
and essentially, yeah. I mean, when you look at the letter that came out, it's extremely
misleading.
I mean,
it was written, signed as 2 council members in their capacity as council members, multiple times naming themselves. When we got on council, who we represent.
To look at the letter, when you look at different parts of this letter, and they talk about it. I was trying to they address this letter as 2 council women. All right, and it's all over it when they talk about our
community
council.
Action is needed.
Yeah.
Your vote makes a difference.
So,
they're naming candidates for school board that they endorse as council members. Which, by the way, they got the numbers wrong. That was pretty comical.
and they're essentially saying, that the claim that they made was that you and Dina come to council meetings. And
their council meetings.
It says our council meetings.
They own them. The public does not own them. We've gone over the organization chart. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you watch the video.
Their argument is that their purpose is to serve underserved parts of the community with economic equality and racial justice. And their claim was because they do that, they've come under attack by 2 people, a part of a group. And
yep.
So you're a part of a group that we don't know because
you and I are a group. If you want to define a group, this could be a group.
Yeah, these are nonpartisan positions, and I guess you got lumped in with they said you questioned playgrounds. Now
sidewalks. Yep.
You for one have never spoken at a council meeting ever.
I have not. No, I have never gone up and questioned at a council meeting. I have gone up and asked at planning board meetings and zoning board meetings, Board of Education meetings, but never at a council meeting. I've never, ever once gone up there. I'd like somebody to show me the record of where I have gone and questioned that. Here on this podcast, I have questioned everything. I've questioned all sorts of things. The purpose of this podcast is to help inform more people about what's going on in our township. Help them understand in a more friendly way than going to a council meeting where you're expected to understand the rigorous process and everything else that needs to take place. And if you don't understand it, you're going to get gavelled and sat down, and it's a very intimidating place for any resident to go. You're gaslit when you went there if you did show up and bring up anything. It's not a good place for residents to go, which is why no one goes. And
it is
doing this podcast is exactly the opposite of going to a council meeting. It's making it I don't want to say fun, but it's in a fun way. It's an entertainment way of informing you. This is what I have to do with my daughter. What you have to do with younger kids, that you need to keep it entertaining to them. Look, we might not be the best comedians out here, but we try to keep it somewhat entertaining. It might be extremely boring for some people out there, but doing this is our freedom of speech in helping bring light to anything that's going on in this township. We have the absolute right to do that. These people cannot rule us like tyrants. They can put all the hit pieces they want out on all of us. We have the right as citizens with our First Amendment to question and redress our government. That you can't take that away from us. And because we do that, you can't just go put a hit piece out on this. The argument that was made from our town solicitor was that they don't become second-rate citizens because they're council members, which I feel like is a complete... First, I agree with that to a degree. You can go and say, I'm saying this as Carolyn Grace or Andrea Stubbs, not as Councilwoman Andrea Grace. You can't go in and pose in the way that they did.
Well, like one of the last lines, it says, "As public officials, we believe," and they throughout this entire letter. Now we showed it to you. You can go back and pause it and read it through. Through this entire thing, they wrote this letter as your council members. So this was, this was a hit piece, which was an abuse of power, and this
absolute abuse of power. And they don't know either one of the people that they're addressing in there. Dina Hendry got up and spoke, and you can go. These videos are on our site too, clicked down, so you don't have to watch the entire council meeting to find it. But the ironic piece about this here is the council meeting after this came out. This came a week prior, I should say, to the 24th. I guess was the date of that.
Yeah,
it was the 24th. So the ironic thing was I couldn't have been to that council meeting, which would have been the first time I would actually have spoken at a council meeting to defend myself. Because I was doing the exact opposite. For months prior that I had scheduled a charity fundraiser helping the exact people that I'm being accused of not being for or whatever. They have no idea who I am, what I do. I run all sorts of charities. I help people all the time. I'm a Rotarian in the town. It's a service-based thing. I started a nonprofit organization to help downtown Blackwood. I could go on and on about different things that I do. I'm not here to promote myself, but these are clear lies that they're putting out about me, and they should be ashamed of themselves. And I'm going to at the next council meeting, because we were told that somehow now a council meeting, at the public portion, you can't address any topic. You can only address any topic that they will allow you to address, because I guess that's the way it works now. But you should do that before or after the meeting. So, Councilwoman Grace and Councilwoman Stubbs, I will be addressing you if you were to hear this before or after the meeting. I know this last meeting I was told that you snuck out the back door because you didn't want to address anybody. You might have had a tummy ache or something else, but at some point in time, you're going to have to talk to people, and I will be addressing you.
So let's, so you weren't there, but the other person named in this was there. And she got up, and
good for her.
Let's hear what Dina had to say.
Good afternoon, Dina Hendry, Summerdale. 2 times the oath that you take to be a council member had done today, correct? And the word used was impartial. How is writing and sending a letter as a councilwoman displaying being impartial when residents are able to ask questions without prejudice? I want to take this time to kindly ask about the letter that was sent last week that states that it's from 2 councilwomen, Ms. Stubbs and Ms. Grace. Before I continue, can you kindly confirm that this had the authorization from you both to be sent to some of the residents at the township? Were you aware of it? Yay, nay?
So did I see
I'm going to take your silence
Grace
as yes.
nod her head yes?
A slight nod, yeah.
A slight nod?
Also,
Okay.
need the approval of rest of the council.
No, it wouldn't need an approval.
Okay. Before sending this letter, was the lawyer of the council consulted?
I commented, I didn't know.
You didn't know about it? Okay. With
Convenient.
that, can you explain why this was not sent to everybody in Gloucester Township, as you are counsel for all of Gloucester Township, not just certain areas of the township, especially with saying that a community action is needed? I would think that all of Gloucester Township residents would want to know what kind of action is needed. Also, can you review the meeting where these supposed attacks were made? From my understanding and review of the meeting on July 11th, 2022, in 15 minutes and 33 seconds, I asked about the process of abstaining from a vote. I did not at any time object to playgrounds, sidewalks, or affordable housing.
Stubbs' eyes, she's like this.
I have questioned the lack of attendance
She was
from
hiding.
a
Yeah,
citizen
she was.
that has been voted by the people who we pay out of our tax dollars. People have reached out about this letter to me, about the undertones that are being implied. I told these people that I really don't think this letter is to cause a division. I'm hoping I am wrong. With that being said, please understand that what is being written can't be undone, but a retraction can, as this letter is dangerous without factual evidence and information. Also, I would like to apologize for attending your meetings. I thought this was an open meeting, and I thought being a resident and a taxpayer that meant that I could attend meetings and ask questions during the second session. If I am wrong, please point me to the correct meeting where I can freely exercise my First Amendment right without being twisted or held against me. Thank you.
Yeah, so they no response. They didn't answer when Dina asked about that, whether or not they approved it. There was a lot of talk. So this discussion went...
so Councilwoman Grace did nod her head to a degree, you said?
She did.
Stubbs, I saw she was...
Stubbs was full blown
hiding,
embarrassed, I think, about it.
Look at her.
And
show that.
Yeah, she's Stubbs.
She's a little bit down right there.
She's not having a good time with this.
Nope.
And
what is your gut feeling? Do you think that they even knew ahead of time that PAC put that out there? Because it wasn't. When you know a little bit more about how these hit piece things work. There's political. What's a PAC stand for, Joe? What's PAC?
Political Action Committee.
Political Action Committee. So people donate to those political action committees, who are then the ones that put out these nasty, election time, hit piece, type of things. So this particular hit piece, we'll call it, I guess, was put out, and it could very well have been put out without their knowledge. And I think that that's what happened in this case.
Yeah, I think they knew, actually, because at the beginning, before this all went down, before council actually broke to go into private session, there was a long, several minutes of
dialogue between
President Mercado and...
So yeah, the opening, if you were to pull up the Township's version of this clip, it's a good portion of the beginning of it when it started recording, that Orlando was sitting there talking to
He's got his arm around her. They're facing away from the cameras, and for several minutes they're talking.
Might be giving her the heads up that, hey,
it's going to be brought up. They follow us on social media, so it's there was I think almost certain. I mean, we kind of went into it watching.
Well,
this.
so that is my point, that
nobody's
Ms. Stubbs did not know this prior to this going out. She knew prior to the questioning.
I kind of more took it like Stubbs knew, but they were like, "You're gonna get questioned. Don't respond."
Okay.
So that was So from that point, so Paul Krug spoke before, and go to restoregt.com. There's a good video. It's a 5.5 minute video. I don't want to play it for you here because it's just too long.
Yeah, if you're interested, it's there. It's 5 minutes. It's great. They tried to shut him down, and he just kept going with it.
He kept going. He hammered him on the identity politics, and he hammered him on the abuse of power, because these are council people posing in a letter as
elected officials. I'm one of the people that
this is what you should do.
They're supposed to represent, and they talked about me. Dina's one of the people that they were supposed to represent.
Yeah. Now, neither you or Dina are tied to any kind of organization. There's no money. You spent the money for your signs. Dina spent the money for her signs. That's all the money and influence that's involved. So that's you guys are parents.
Regular parents standing up for what they believe or getting involved.
And you're attacked by people that are sending stuff like this out these are expensive. These are really expensive. And this is
I would guess it's 15 grand easy. I think there's 3 of those I've seen so far. That's well, no, if you count that other hit piece letter.
Yeah, so
no, there's 3 of them so far I've seen.
The Restore GT campaign in 21 did one of these to every house in Gloucester Township for 13 grand. These are only getting sent, I believe, to anybody registered as a Democrat, so slightly cheaper but still expensive. This is the second one that I've gotten, glossy, and then of course we got the one with you on it.
Yeah.
And apparently they're emailing teachers now too.
Yeah, so that was another one.
But
I don't know what day it was.
Let's get into that a little bit later.
Okay.
But
yeah,
So after Dina spoke, there was now before Dina spoke, when Paul Krug was talking, he was stopped several times, and they kept saying, "We don't discuss political things here. This is not the forum for this."
No,
and the explanation that
it needed to be governmental, not just that
governmental,
it wasn't political.
but these were government officials posing in a letter to tell people what to do, as not as themselves, but as councilwomen. So it's kind of a big difference.
It is a big difference when they pen the letter. That as councilwomen, that's a big difference versus. I know that person. That's our council.
Several mentions in the letter about them being council, about talking about council, about them being councilwomen, using their official pictures from their website on the Gloucester Township Council, and then that was part of the discussion. They kind of let Dina talk. They just didn't acknowledge her basically, and then someone else came up and she questioned kind of the same thing. Why are these people posing as government officials talking? And she was basically she was trying to shut down. She was pretty much shut down by Dan Hutchinson, who thought that this was inappropriate to talk about. Let's check out that clip of that.
Okay.
I guess the political.
Oh, they're both elected, right? The Board of Ed's elected and you're elected.
I think you're setting a precedent right now that we need to steer clear of. This has all been politics, and we've never done this before. This chamber has always been a legislative body, and we're allowing it to become something else today. And that's a slippery slope.
It's because the council.
Mr. Cohen, please don't get
I'm
called.
talking to you, Mr. McConnell.
Yes.
You need to gather this. This is political.
This isn't political. School board
This
is
is
nonpartisan.
political.
It is a nonpartisan body.
I
No matter where you look, it says it's
Guess what?
nonpartisan.
This is not the school board, okay? This is a legislative body here that discusses legislative things.
The process is you can raise your hand. There's what is it? 5 people, 5 minutes of a piece or something like that is what the amount of people that are allowed through the public portion. There's somebody there that has the same message that they tell her every single time.
Every week.
We're not doing this.
5 minutes.
Every single time she's selected to talk as if there's something different that's going to happen.
She's the first person to burn off 5 minutes. So
it does.
If if you were,
it does burn 5 minutes.
If you are a big fan of Councilman Dan Hutchinson, and you are a big fan of silencing people when they speak, we've this year you can
Spirit Halloween
you can
looks
get
like
the old helpful Hutch costume, gym shorts that he wears to the meeting not included, also anti-speech tape and a poorly functioning microphone not included, but hey, it is the season, so
I'm not gonna knock his gym shorts 'cause
it is comfortable. But
the anti-speech tape, though, I mean trying to stop a resident from speaking and saying that it's a political thing there.
It was pretty
the line of questioning
on gabbling it to stop it.
Her question, because it wasn't played there, her question was around why does a school board member need to preference this is my own personal opinion, not that of which the board of which I serve. But it's not required for a council member. How is that okay? Or why? What is the difference? That was literally her question, but that was the responses.
Yeah, the response.
Instead of answering your question, we're going to say we're just going to shut this down.
We cannot talk politics here.
Yeah.
And look, nobody wanted to talk politics there. They brought politics into there when they posed as council people in a letter to everybody.
Right.
And just a clip on the thought of what's supposed to happen at the public portion is.
If I wanted to get up there and read The Cat in the Hat for 5 minutes, I should have the right to do that. Go look at Chad and JT Go Deep. Look that up on YouTube.
So
they talk about the most random things at public council. They're pretty hilarious, some of the things that they do, but it has nothing to do with government, and they have the ability to just go up there and talk. Somehow, is ours different somehow?
So here's a little summary from
Freedom of speech is different in Gloucester Township.
From our agenda.
I'm just gonna read your own agenda to you. On public portion, it says public participation, which shall be any item the public chooses to address the township council. Any item. It doesn't say anything about legislative body, governmental body, any item. That's what your agenda says. Thanks.
Yeah, so kind of what we see.
Mic drop.
She's also up for re-election. Definitely pick her too.
That's Jen O'Donnell.
Yeah. So yeah, that was. So there was a lot of this discussion about, whether this was right or wrong, or whether we should talk about this here. Definitely abuse of power. And during this whole meeting, if you want to go back and listen to the whole hour and 48-minute long meeting, a lot of this discussion, they said, look, if you guys want to talk in the parking lot later, we will freely talk about you. And, this is just not the place to talk. We can do this afterwards.
Yeah.
So afterwards, basically what happened was meeting was ended.
Cameras were shut off. Meetings ended.
Yeah, cameras were shut off. And, Miss Henry was called out in that letter. And she wanted to go talk to two councilwomen. She approached them and said, hey, can we talk? I think that you kind of owe me to talk. And I guess Councilwoman Grace had some stomach aches. At least that's what they said. They found their way through the offices, and I was actually heading towards the outside. They came kind of flying out through the doors ahead of me, hoods up, and took off out the doors before anybody else could come out and talk to them. So definitely chicken move to kind of just bust out ahead of everybody. I don't know.
I said, I mean, they're not going to be able to just not address somebody before or after a council meeting for the rest of eternity. They have to.
I don't know that
you said this about me. You're going to talk to me about this.
Yeah, there wasn't. I guess one more. There's one more kind of. It's I just posted.
Is this a mashup here?
This is a little mashup, but so the township solicitor, basically the attorney, they kind of make sure everything is going okay there.
Make sure everything's going okay.
The attorney several times, several people
that was
said
the best line of the night here.
Was Mr. Carlemere okay with this letter? And let's check out a couple of these. These are kind of great, actually.
So I'm going to ask our solicitor, Mr. Carlemere, okay, if he believes that this is not governmental or political, for him to make that call to stop you.
So I'm not familiar with what you're referring to.
So not familiar, doesn't know.
No idea.
Before sending this letter, was the lawyer of the council consulted?
I commented. I didn't know.
You didn't know about it.
Said he commented on it already. No, he has no idea. 2 times, he has no idea.
This letter was paid for by the Gloucester Township Citizens for Government Reform. The chairperson is Mr. Carlemere's wife.
So, yes, the township solicitor's wife is the one that runs one of the many PACs that funds your big flyers and your attacks. The old, remember the creep website from last year? Yeah, they were behind that also.
Yep.
So that is that's pretty much what went down.
That was Monday. Welcome to Monday in Gloucester Township.
Yeah, that was Monday. Now, I guess a letter came out to
it was
teachers?
I don't know what they were on. It was a few days later, 2 days later or so. So teachers in Gloucester Township received a letter in their mailbox at school, which was an attack against me. Just me, claiming that I'm a Republican.
Yeah, so
that was the accusation. Someone else that's a Republican said something, so I'm bad and I need to be rejected.
Yeah, and
it was amazing. So let's put this together here. So right now, the machine in Gloucester Township are the Democrats, right?
Yes.
So the opposition party, if I'm against the machine, I'm going to join the opposition party, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how it works. If I were in
you could primary
another
fail, like many have.
another state where the Republicans were the machine, because that happens as well, I'd probably join the Democrat Party to fight against the machine. Around our age, 20-something years ago, we all wanted to rage against the machine, right? Now all of a sudden that's not allowed to do.
No.
I'm somehow bad because if I join the Republicans to fight against the machine, who's supposed to be the ones that are fighting against the machine, that's a whole other podcast about the opposition in this town. I'm putting myself out there to be the person that's getting attacked. I'm doing it so that it's fighting for everyone else in this town to break the machine up as much as we possibly can. I don't care if I get the attacks. I really don't care. They can say whatever they want. It's amazing, though, the lengths that they go through to protect a non-paid position, right? This is a volunteer position for the school board that I'm running for the school board, right? And you've seen the flyers that are going out, the amount of money that they're spending on that. The machine wants that position because it's power that they have over you and me and you and everyone else in this town. It's amazing. But their attack was that I'm a Republican and another Republican
you're
somewhere
the Republican
said this.
leading the charge.
Oh, that's right. No, I'm leading the charge. No, I'm not leading the charge. I'm standing up for every other person, every other teacher, every other student, everyone in this town to get away from the machine.
Here's the ironic part about the whole thing. So, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, we're just independent people. And then last year, you ran independent, I ran independent. And then at some point, we just were like, all right, this independent thing doesn't work. So we're going to join the opposition party. And we both went and found ourselves and said, you know what, look, we'll join. I ran against the Republican team last year. And then this year I said, look, we're not going to make this
but you're right now,
again.
you would be considered a Republican, though. So
you're
just as bad as whatever I am.
So here's the deal. The deal was, look, we need to build an opposition party. We need to get everybody together.
There is no opposition party in Gloucester Township.
There isn't. And there's not even really a Republican Party in Gloucester Township. So what we did was we said, look, we need to get everybody together. And, the deal with me was, if I'm going to do it, I want to be on your committee too. And that's kind of pretty much you just got put on the committee because somebody was like, hey, just join our committee.
Yeah, we want him on there. Okay, whatever.
And this happened last year.
Yeah.
So it's funny that they said you're leading the charge because
I'm leading the charge.
We wound up, and there's no charge. That's the thing. We're just look. We're trying to be the opposition. We're trying to promote transparency, and we're not going to do it as Democrats in a primary. That's not how it's going to work.
It's not going to work against this machine, no.
So,
but I mean, this particular letter that came out against me, I was pissed about the process that it happened. First of all, it was in teachers in the schools, in all of the schools. Letters that went out, and they went out to union reps, which shouldn't. Who would have that list? How do they know who the union reps are? That should be a secret, not secret, but not a public thing.
Well,
they were mailed to the schools with attached to their names, so it's a federal thing where the school can't pull those letters if they found them, so even if they learned, which they did learn later on for people that didn't pick them up, that they were in their mailboxes. And then the letter had no paid for by on here to say what PAC put this out, who paid for this, because it wasn't a cheap thing to do. They had to print up all these flyers, mail them, envelopes, everything. It was still a couple $100 to do, even if it wasn't the glossy flyers. They sending those things out, but it's in the actual school, which the superintendent right now is completely against anything political at all being in the schools. And for this to show up in teachers' mailboxes, it was despicable.
Yeah, so I mean, every piece that goes out is there's a little disclaimer down that says who it's paid for.
Right.
And whether it's on your signs in your front yard that says who it's paid for, and everything that goes out says who it's paid for.
There's laws you're supposed to follow.
There was no return address on the envelope.
No return address, handwritten.
Handwritten. So
broke all kinds of rules, but they don't care. they're going to stoop low, and guess what? It's not going to be the last one that they put out. I don't care. I don't care. I'm doing it to stand up for everyone else that's out there.
Look, I think it's fantastic. You've motivated a lot of people.
Now, I want more people to get involved. I want them to get involved.
Motivated a lot of people. You've made them look terrible. Between you, Dina, Paul, everybody.
They made themselves look terrible, Joe. Not me. I did not. They're despicable.
So terrible in this whole thing, and
you win by fighting and running more on what you're gonna, run for, not attacking somebody. If you have nothing else, where's one of their candidates with one word in public about what they have to say?
I've never seen any of
them.
I've never seen any of these people.
Yeah.
So yeah, those, and then
you won't unless they win.
The other folks that we haven't mentioned.
It's a disgrace.
They're just phantoms. They're just out there to to dilute the vote. So man,
it's frustrating, but it's not unexpected, and it's not going to deter anybody.
Here's the biggest thing about this whole thing is this is an election year where there's not a whole lot going on. There's no governor, there's no president. We've got Congressman Norcross is going up against Claire Gustafson, and then you've got some school board, and you've got 2 commissioner spots. It's not something that's going to draw a lot of people out for. So look, if this has pissed you off in any possible way, these machine politics, you've got to get out on November 8th and vote. You've got.
We're not going to win with the people don't get out and vote.
It's going to be such a small turnout, and they're going to be prepared. They are so prepared to come out and vote. They have call lists. They're going to call their people out. And
talking about call lists. So we have a friend from the Progressive Democrats in Camden County who each year there's a group of them that get together and they go and oversee what happens at the actual Board of Elections, seeing what the process was. And I spoke to her, before about last election cycle. There was the way that it was handled was Gloucester Township. Any ballots that had come in from Gloucester Township were put off to the side, and those were counted first before any other townships, because it must have been an important election for them to make sure what happens. I'm not saying that there's fraud that goes on or anything like that, but if you're counting something first, you know the results of that first. When you have a machine the size of the machine that is in Gloucester Township and in Camden County and whatnot, and you have your priorities in place, you can say, okay, we're behind, and we have all the lists. Everyone, if you're a registered voter, your name is on a list somewhere. They have your contact information to reach out to you. And there's certain people that they know who was at each location. Each polling location has a person working those locations. A lot of them are volunteers. However, they still can be, on either side of the aisle. And these are all known. When it's a machine, it's a machine. That's why it's called a machine, because there's a million pieces to it. It is. If they know that they're in trouble, they start making calls. Hey, guess what? What do I have on this? We got to get this guy out here. Let's get these cars together and get these people to the the polls. We're behind. We're lagging behind. There's no reason that Gloucester Township would have been pulled first and counted first before. What would be the reason?
Man,
Explain the reason. And if I'm a Republican here that's so in danger of you, and this information is coming from Progressive Democrats in Camden County, why would we be on the same page? Aren't we? Is it one here and one here?
Complete opposites.
We're against the machine.
Complete
what
opposites.
Don't you get?
We've got 2 people on we've got 2 groups on different sides.
It's insane.
That say, look, this machine that's here,
it needs to go.
It's got to go. And look, the progressives they've got their agenda, and the conservatives have their agenda. But they all know that what's happening right now is just, it's got to stop. So, man, you
could live so much cheaper if you didn't have the machine in place.
You could live cheaper.
Yeah. The same premium services that you have would somehow magically cost so much less.
Also, if you are a fan of tyrants at your council meetings.
Oh, yeah, there is another.
Spirit has this.
Yep, it's the municipal tyrant.
This for you, the municipal tyrant. 5-minute timer and microphone not included.
Yep. That clock you can get on Amazon though if you want to do.
Yeah, you can.
5-minute timer.
5 minutes. You can stop.
Yep.
You
can. You don't have to stop. You just keep.
You don't
running.
have to stop it if somebody's like, hey,
Trick or treat.
I'm going to talk about like Braille, blind firemen, and stuff like that. You can go on for whatever, but if you're holding people accountable, it is 5 minutes. So
5 minutes.
Yeah, and as a consolation, if that's not your thing,
I went as this last year.
Yeah, this is my favorite costume here. It's Councilwoman Stubbs.
This is literally all you get.
If you're like, where is Councilwoman Stubbs?
Oh,
that's what we've been saying too for like the last 2 years. So this is literally all you get in the box.
Spirit gets it.
So sorry guys, that is what you get. Man, what
Trunk or treat is tomorrow.
What a 2 weeks it's been.
Yep.
I missed the beer festival. I wanted so much to talk about the beer festival and my experience at the beer festival. I was interviewing school board candidates.
Yeah, that was that day of
instead of doing that. So, man, if you went, shoot it in the comments. I kind of want to know.
Tell us how it was.
Is it worth going next year? How many breweries are there? I think somebody mentioned Double Nickel was there. They make good beer.
Double Nickel is also right down the street in Pennsauken. So.
Yeah, they're in Pennsauken. I think the Made in New Jersey festival is coming up. Not in Gloucester Township though, but that's I keep seeing ads for that too. I kind of want to check that out.
I just went to a beer festival in Hamilton. It was like in the woods in a campground. It was John Henderson that puts on the AC Beer Fest. A friend of mine, and he.
Look, folks. So those of you that hate long podcasts, yeah, we just hit an hour, so sorry about that.
Yep.
Come back and you can pause it while you're watching, while you're working. Come back and visit it again. But
someone to drive to work, someone to drive home.
Yeah.
Get
YouTube,
all the news.
It's on YouTube. It's on Spotify. Subscribe, please, on YouTube. We need some more subscribers. Let's just do some more things with the channel. And hit the notification bell so you know what's going to happen. You're sitting in traffic. We throw up a little funny video. You can check it out. As long as you're not driving.
And just a disclaimer: we are not suicidal. We are both of sound mind.
We did
mention if anything happens to us. This is the disclaimer that we did not suicide ourselves.
We did mention the machine here quite unfavorably, and the puppet master himself.
Oh yeah, there was costumes and yikes.
Yeah, well, you don't want to bring Norcross up because. You wind up on the Dead End podcast. Check that podcast out too.
That is a good point. Yeah, the Dead End podcast. Google that. That's a really interesting. Interesting.
So we.
It was the Sheridans, John Sheridan, that poor man.
We plan on living long lives. So subscribe to our podcast. Go to restoredt.com and check out what we've got over there. Anything else to add? RestoreGT at RestoreGT on Twitter.
That's it. Thank you, folks.
All right, folks. See you in a little while.
See ya.
Throw some clips out here.
Yeah, we'll see the next hit piece. I'll be out.
Yeah, the next hit piece.
I'll let you know what conversations I have.
We'll cover it. If any of the other BOE Phantom candidates want to reach out, come hang out. We'll interview you.
Yep, reach out.
Talk to you guys soon.